professionals, if you want to hop in, I won't popcorn you that way, but feel free to hop in and say your name and your title.
I can start. My name is Jennifer Monroe, and I am the interim deputy director for behavioral health at Swope Health. So we work with adults and children and individuals with mental health conditions and substance use disorder.
I'll go next. I'm Jo Beth Herrick, and I am a nurse clinic manager at the Swope Independence satellite location. We're a family practice clinic there. So thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Bridget Locke. I'm the Director of Strategic Communications here at Swope Health. My responsibilities entail monitoring our digital assets, making sure that our print collateral and our event messaging and any other messaging aligns with our brand. And so I do a lot of writing for the organization. And I work with a really great team. We engage in marketing and event planning and things of just a lot of variety in my role.
Hello, and I'm Kenneth Thomas. I'm a pediatrician and executive vice president of children's services with Swope Health. My job is to oversee my department to help our chief health officer standardize our approach to taking care of children across the organization, to develop and implement new services for children, and just basically the overall care of children that Swope Health takes care of. Welcome.
Cool. So I'll start us off with our first question. If you can just kind of talk a little bit about like how you got to this role at Swope Health and just kind of like what that career path looked like for you. Whoever wants to hop in first.
Okay, I'll go.
Go ahead. Go, Dr.
My how I got here is a little convoluted starting out. I'm a graduate of Wyandotte High School, Kansas City, Kansas, Bulldogs. I was recruited out of high school, not really recruited, but there was a local enrichment program that was participating in KCK that went to the high schools and looked for students who were interested in health careers. And so I participated with that since I think my junior year in high school. Went off to K-State. There was a similar program at University of Nebraska that I participated in. They called them at that time an enrichment program. So they were designed to take a student interested in healthcare, kind of do refreshers on the basic sciences, gave us opportunities to work in either clinic setting, like in a doctor's office, or do some research. Like I did in Nebraska. So I participated in Nebraska's program also, completed my BA at K-State, pre-med in chemical sciences. And because I had a good experience and did well in Nebraska's program, I was accepted to the University of Nebraska. And so I decided to go there. I also got accepted to Meharry and a couple other schools, but I knew Nebraska, decided to go to Nebraska. For various reasons. Number one, tuition was cheaper than going to KU, believe it or not, even for me as an out-of-state student. So I ended up going there. It was the best move for me. Came back here to Children's Mercy Hospital, did my residency at Children's Mercy Hospital, and ended up doing over 20 years as a pediatrician, general pediatrics, pediatric emergency medicine at Children's Mercy Hospital. Had an opportunity to work for an organization called TriSource and start a clinic for them. A family medicine clinic, and so I was a pediatric specialist within a family medicine practice. Within 2 or 3 years, TriSource decided that they were too big and started downsizing. Children's Mercy Hospital bought the clinic that I started for TriSource, so I ended up back at Children's Mercy Hospital and finished out my career there. About 2012 or so, I left Mercy and went to work for Truman Lakewood at their pediatric program. at which point Swope recruited me from there within about 2 years, and I've been here since for 8 years. So that was my long road to get to where I am now. And trust me, I don't want to hop anywhere anymore. My next move will be retirement. How's that?
Mine was kind of similar in that I kind of took a long pathway to get to where I'm at now, with many different roles, but not within a lot of organizations. I'm a registered nurse, and this is my 40th year as practicing as a registered nurse. And so I started from being a nurse intern and working in a hospital setting. And I spent the first 24 years after I got my RN at one location, and that was all inpatient. And I'd never set foot in the outpatient setting or the ambulatory setting. And I had an opportunity to go to what was then Truman Medical Center and be a program manager for their oncology services there. And I thought that sounded like it was right up my alley. And so I decided to take that opportunity. And I ended up spending 11 years there and loved every minute of it. And I decided that at one point that I didn't feel like, oh, maybe my path in life was headed the right direction there for a while. And so I left Truman and was looking to go back into the for-profit world and do something a little different. And while I was on that job journey, I had this, revelation, I guess, that I really was in the right place. I liked the mission of helping underserved people. I wanted to be in a place that I felt like I could make a difference and do that. And by that time, my old position had already been filled. And so I looked for another place that would be able to provide that type of an environment. And that's how I ended up at Swope Health. And I thought at first when I got hired here, this will just kind of be an interim job until I can find that next best thing. And then I got here and I loved it. And I've been here about 3.5 years now, but it really seems like I've been here much longer. And it's something that I have really found is a great place for me to be.
I'm going to go next. I'm Jennifer. Hi. So I am a social worker. I have a master's degree in social work, and I'm a licensed social worker. And I actually got my bachelor's degree in child and family studies, which is now a human services degree program from Northwest Missouri State University in Maryville. And I knew that I wanted to work with people. I wasn't really sure how. I actually was interested in working with geriatric adults when I first graduated with my bachelor's degree. But a lot of those programs wanted someone who had more experience or had a master's degree already. And so I ended up working as a case manager with youth in a community behavioral health setting, which is actually the program that I work in here at Swope, but it was for a different organization. And I realized that I did not want to work with youth. So not because I don't love youth, but because it was having multiple layers, because you have parents and you have kids, and that can be a lot to have on a caseload. And so I thought working with adults was a better fit for me. And I actually left that position and went to work for a treatment program with the Department of Corrections. And so I worked at, it used to be Kansas City Community Center, and now it is Heartland Center for Behavioral Change at 1534 Campbell. I was a case manager for about 47 men coming out of prison, and I toted them all around Kansas City. That's how I learned all the roads and streets and how to get anywhere in Kansas City, because I'm not from Kansas City. I'm actually from a small town in rural Northwest Missouri. So I drove these guys around in the van. I helped them get jobs. I helped them find a place to live. And I was like, I want to work with people that don't get a fair shake, I guess you could say. And so I really was interested in corrections, but I went to get my master's degree and learned a little bit more about the behavioral health side, and realized that that can tie to really any population, because a lot of the trauma and experiences that people have from their early childhood all the way through adulthood all mold what has happened to them or what their experiences are. And so I realized that that was really for me. I came to work at Swope Health in 2011. I've been here since April of 2011. I started out as a supervisor for a team of case managers. And then I moved into the role of the community services director, which was the program director for that same group of case managers. And right now I'm in an interim role as the deputy director while we are going through some transition with a retirement. But I have been here 12 years, right? Yeah, 2023. And this is the first place that I've ever worked that I've not looked for a job outside of here. So I told them they're going to have to cart me out at some point. I don't know, maybe when I'm 90, I don't know, but I really love the people I work with. I love the population of people that come in the door. I like to get to know their stories and know how we can help them and see people change and grow. And it just is really, it motivates me, but also just like from the cliche of a social worker, like we want to make the world a better place kind of thing. So I really feel like I get to do a little bit of that here. So.
Okay, I guess it's my turn. So I graduated in 1999 with a Bachelor of Arts in Communication and Human Development. I had trouble deciding if I wanted to go into psychology. I didn't know if I wanted to be a writer. I changed majors a few times. I even, at one point in time when I first started college, I was a music minor because I played music all through high school. So really, college was a time for exploration for me. But ultimately, I decided that my love for writing was I've always had a passion to understand and for others to be understood. And so that when I kind of realized that that was my true north, I landed on a major and decided that communications worked for me. So graduated. But I was a non-traditional student. So when I graduated from college, I was a wife and I was a mother of a 2-year-old. So kudos to all of you for your internships. I did not engage in any internships. I just was a student and an employee. And so I really got into the communications field by just waiting. So I started my first role out of college in the insurance industry. I was hired as a call center rep. So I had this communications, I was double major, communications and human development degree. And I was answering insurance calls, which was fine. It was a great way to learn about the company, but it ultimately was not what I wanted to do. So I waited for, I think there was a communications department in my first job out of college. And I think it was a team of like 3 or 4. So many times people didn't post out the job. You would just kind of wait for those roles. So I waited for several years to get into that department, but I started to seek out opportunities to write for the organization. So there were multiple chances. They had a community relations committee. So I joined that and got an opportunity to do some writing for the organization there. So by the time I was ready to apply for an open position in their communications department, I already had a portfolio within the company. So I joined the communications department and I stayed there at that insurance company for probably about 14 years. And then I just realized that I needed to grow in some other areas. And so I changed industries. I left that role and even changed roles. I left this communications role and went into nonprofit higher education. So because I wanted an opportunity to learn more about myself as a leader. And so I became an assistant director of financial aid, which couldn't have been more opposite from kind of the way I saw myself, but it was a great move because I realized that I did have a little bit of maybe a financial brain. I just sort of boxed myself in a certain way, but I recognized early on that a lot of those skills that you start to develop around just clear communication, all of that is transferable. So I was at this small college where I was the assistant director for financial aid, and then there became an opening in the marketing department. The marketing manager left, and so I transitioned into their marketing department, and then from there, I stayed really in the nonprofit space. So I went to a larger institution, a larger university. I stayed there for about 5 years. And then I served as the managing director for an agency, which got me really, so from that university, I took a position as a managing director for a nonprofit agency that focuses on violence prevention and education. So I was there for about 1.5 years. And then that led me to Swope Health. And so what I've learned in that journey that's taken some sharp turns and some things that maybe didn't make sense to me at the time, I will say that I learned to just kind of lean in and say yes and do the thing that might scare you or you might not see for yourself, but being willing to learn, you can really you can become a more marketable and a more knowledgeable employee. So I've been here at Swope Health for 4 months now. So I'm fairly new to the organization, but I absolutely love it.
Fun. So these students, they're all in internships right now. Some of them they just finished their freshman year of college, they're going into their sophomore year. Some people are on their senior year, getting close to graduation. What sort of advice or tips would you give for them kind of planning out, like, I do this internship, maybe I do a couple more, and like kind of like what advice would you give for them to plan, I guess, like their professional career path? Like what was like a big key? Okay, let me rephrase it. What was a key like do and a key don't for like your professional like career path that you would tell a current college student?
I'll start.
Okay.
Do internships. They're not an exercise in futility or anything like that. They are real life experiences. They help you form what you want to do. Sometimes you think you want to do something and you do an internship and it's like, I don't want to do this. But it also helps you create connections, because at some point, especially if you plan on doing postgraduate work, at some point, you're going to need connections. I give you one of my experiences. Going through K-State, I felt alienated. I was, away from home. I didn't know anybody. My advisor wasn't the best person. Told me, you're probably not going to get in med school the first day she met me. Why don't you try something else? And so I did the wrong thing. I just kind of sunk back in, stopped going to my advisor, stopped doing internships and things like that, and struggled through. Well, turns out you got to have a recommendation from your advisor to apply to medical school. Who'd have thought? So these internships really help you make those connections. So when you need these connections, you have people that know you and know your abilities who can speak up on your behalf. So that was in one way early on in my career path that I struggled with. And if I had to do it all over again, I would have gone into my advisor's room and demanded on day one, well, I plan on applying to medical school and your job is to help me. And then started making those other connections also. So obviously I started doing that early enough that it made a difference, but my first few years of undergraduate on my career path could have been a little bit easier. So do internships, be persistent, be determined. Don't let anybody steer you away from your goal. So make a goal and head towards it. Doesn't mean your goal may not change, but it's nice to have somewhat of a goal in front of you, so that you can set your mind on it and head towards it.
I'll go next. I have to agree. I kind of compare an internship to a lot of what I experienced as clinical experience in nursing school. Back when I went to school, way back then, it was a 3-year program. It was what they called a diploma program. So you didn't come out with any type of a degree. You had a diploma, and you could still take the boards for becoming an RN, but you didn't have a degree. And so I wanted to at least be in an organism or in a school that I got a lot of clinical experience, so that I felt like I had plenty of hands-on things that had helped me to grow and be better at whichever department or whichever direction that I decided to go in nursing, whether that was critical care or just med surge type of nursing. And so also building those relationships, just like Dr. Thomas was talking about. And so I would have to agree that an internship is very similar to that clinical experience that I speak of. Nursing schools in today's world, you have very, very little actual time in a clinical setting. It's very online focused, and you don't have nearly as much actual being in a hospital or in a setting where you get to actually work with patients and determine, is this what I want to do? Do I even like talking to people? And so I think that, for one thing, is definitely an important goal or thing that you should have. I definitely would advise that you get as many as you can, and as many as you can afford to as well. Then the other part of that is, in my situation, because I didn't have a degree when I first got my registered nurse license, I had to realize that having a degree to me was important, but it wasn't something that in my personal life that I was able to get my bachelor's degree at that point in my life. And so I did not give up on that. I knew I could go to work as a registered nurse, and I could make the exact same amount of salary at that time for being a bachelor's degree nurse or a diploma nurse. It didn't matter. But I knew in my mind, I wanted to have my degree, at least my bachelor's degree. And so after 2 years of working really hard and kind of getting my financial situation where I could afford to go back to college, I was able to get my bachelor's degree in 2 years of going to night school, 2 nights a week, and working full time. And I didn't have to have it, but for me and my personal growth, I knew that's where I wanted to be and what I wanted, so that I could keep working towards my goals. So if for some reason you want to go on and maybe get some other type of schooling or something, my advice is just don't give up on that. Sometimes life situations are not as you wish when you get out of school, and racking up more debt is not always what you're looking to do. But don't give up on that dream. Just keep working on whatever you need to get that done. That's my advice.
I'll go if that's okay. My advice would be similar to what Dr. Thomas and and what Jo Beth have already expressed. I think always being open to opportunities to network with people, really important. You just never know. You might in certain roles or in certain opportunities to engage with people, you never know what that may come to mean in the future. I'll give you an example. There was a brief period of time where I was between jobs and I took a part-time job at a law firm. I was just doing some office assistance work. And my interaction with someone in that office I was in the office for maybe 2 months. It wound up down the road, opening the door for a really important job in my career path. It led to my time spent at Park University, and I was there for 5 years. The woman she lived in the area where Park University is. She lived up north. For those of you who are local or where I'm talking about, she lived in Parkville, and she said, "Hey, there's an opening. I think this would be perfect for you." I'd never thought about working there, but she remembered my work ethic, and she remembered just some of our conversations. And that didn't seem like a significant moment in my career, but it became a pivotal moment in my career because, I still am in touch with her to this day, and we, didn't work together for very long at all. The other thing that I would say is don't box yourself in. I, again, feel like my career has taken a lot of just sharp turns, and I've been a part of some roles and maybe even served on some committees or just done some things that I didn't initially think I'd be interested in, but I can look back and see how they really enhanced my knowledge and my ability to lead and my willingness to learn. So I would definitely learn to lean into the yes whenever you can. I mean, as long as you're able to do the work that you are assigned to do, the work that you are purposed to do, broaden your horizons and put yourself out there. I know that sounds kind of cliche, but I really have learned more from the opportunities that scared me a little than I learned from those that I thought were just a natural fit. So definitely don't box yourself in, because where you are today may be completely different from where you wind up tomorrow. If you know your true north, I think that's very important. It's important to know what you're good at. It's important to know what you're passionate about, but just know that you will continue to learn who you are as a person and as an employee, as a professional. So always be open to learning new things.
Well, I won't reiterate too much all the things that were already said, but I do think definitely not boxing yourself in, and being flexible, being open to things that come into your life as you're doing an internship or even while you're in school that you may not really think about much at the time, but they may be a trajectory later for you. I think also, if you're able to, during an internship process or through even the education process, to find someone that is what you would consider a mentor or someone that can help you just bounce advice off of, or, ask questions, they give you advice. I've had a lot of people do internships even here at Swope, and I don't know that I mentor them, but they do reach out to me and ask me questions even years after they've been gone from here. Some of them have asked me to be a reference for a job that maybe is in a totally different field, like not even in the field of, social work or behavioral health, because they realized during their internship that maybe that was not the path for them, but that they still respected my opinion or what I thought about whatever they were doing. And so I think if you can find someone who can kind of mentor you and give you advice, I think that that's a do for sure. And it also helps with networking, because they may be the person who reaches out to the person who has an opening somewhere that says, I have the perfect person for you. And I've been lucky enough to be able to do that for some people. And that always feels good to me, because it's like, I know exactly who you need. And so I definitely think develop those relationships early and keep them, even if it's a call or an email every once in a while, I think they still, you're fresh in their mind, and that helps you along the way.
Questions from the interns?
Crickets. I'm just kidding.
A quiet group.
I have a question for Jennifer, which is like, what would you say is like your favorite part of like social work or just in general working where you work?
I think my favorite part of working here at Swope, well, initially it was every day for me is different. I'm not a person who likes redundancy, and I think that that's what I like about social work is that I know what my job is, but I know that something might come into the mix that was not planned, and I think I'd be a good crisis or damage, disaster relief person because I like chaos. People usually make fun of me for that, but I think I seem to work really good under pressure, and so I also really enjoy the population of. I know we use the term clients. Some people say participants, but we have some people who've been coming here for services. Um, you know, since 1997, and they come here every day and they love all the things they do here. And I've gotten to know them in the 12 years I've been here. And I think that I enjoy being here for them. I like to remember little things about them when I see them and say, hey, how's that? And just develop those relationships. I believe that everybody, should have a place and that I speak to everyone that I walk past. And I think that I enjoy the friendly environment here. I think as far as social work, from like a policy standpoint, I believe in the mission here. I think that I am driven by that. It speaks to me. And so I want to be part of that. But also that, social workers, we're bound by a code of ethics. We're supposed to drive change and social change and all of those things, and it just all fits right in with what I want to do, and opportunities that Swope has provided me to be able to even be a voice, on the state level and even the national level to try and move policies that will pay for programs that pay attention to mental health and mental wellness for people and understand that trauma is real and it really does affect, the whole person and all of that. And so I think that really, is something that motivates me.
Other questions from the audience? Okay. What would you all say is like, I guess like if someone had to know like one thing about like if I wanted to do your job as a college student, if I wanted to do your job, like what would be like one thing that I should do to prepare for like your specific job?
Stay in school. I mean, it sounds simple, but that's really it. Be the best you can be, stay in school, strive to learn, and be persistent. I mean, my path was difficult at times, not because of intellect, but because finances, all those things that feed into you being successful. Because it's not always just about being smart. So if you're smart enough and have, financial means that you don't have to worry about life, then it can be easier for you, but those don't always make the best professionals. Life experiences creates the person. And as a pediatrician, especially, I bring those life experiences to my practice. And it makes me a better physician, knowing what, people in my similar position went through as far as their health care for their family and the struggles their family may have. So what got me through is just being persistent. I saw a lot of people who were smarter than me fall to the wayside, that I thought for sure, they'd be the ones to make it, and they fell off. And the only difference is I wouldn't let myself be denied. So it's really that simple. Stay in school, strive to learn, strive to be the best you can be. That's what it takes. And people will see that. And people will acknowledge that with time. And I tell students all the time, what you did in undergraduate and high school and all that, nobody's going to care about 15 years into your career. What matters is you made it through and you were able to demonstrate your abilities in various ways. So Bridget would appreciate this. At some point, you're going to market yourself. At some point, you have to sell I had to sell myself to medical school because I didn't follow the traditional path. So I had to show them, look, I can do this. I have the ability to do this. Not only can I do this, on the other end, I'm going to bring something to the table that other traditional students might not bring to the table. So at some point, you're going to have to market yourself. Okay, so be persistent, keep those things in mind, and try to do things that'll show the people that, you know, look, I'm somebody you want to look at. You know, I'm somebody you want to take another look at. And then you have a chance to market yourself and show the real you.
I'll go next since I'm already unmuted. I just noticed. So it was to step into my job today. That was the question, right?
Yeah, we have students with different majors that are all interested.
Right.
Like, someone might go to medical school, someone might be
Sure.
social worker. Like, what do I need to know as a college student to prepare?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually read something the other day that was like, don't give someone advice when really all they need is a hug. And I'm not a huge hugger, but I think for my job, when someone walks in the door, it's not my place to try to ask all the questions and give advice on what they should and shouldn't do, because they're here because they need help. They've asked for help in some, way, shape, or form, and that can present itself in all sorts of ways. And so I think being understanding and listening and knowing that people, they need other people, and that it's not my job to give them a list of things that they should do, but just to just listen. And so I think that'd probably be the best advice I could give for my job.
I'll go. I think for my job, reading is really important. But not just for my job, I think for for any professional. I know we do a lot of skimming in this day and age, and in my kind of in my industry, we have to find new ways to communicate with people because people don't like to read. But in the end, I think we miss, just in general, many of us miss a lot of information because we don't read things carefully or a little bit more closely, just reading for comprehension, but also taking in information just to know what's happening in the world. It's not enough, I think, to be just good at your job. It's really important to be a good world citizen. That many times that informs how well you do your job. Being aware of the world around you, being aware of things that are happening in your industry, being aware of, things happening in your neighborhood, in your community. So just taking in information and being intentional about learning a little bit more today than you knew yesterday. Because, I will tell you, prime example, when I first entered the communications industry, social media was not a thing. And now social media is everything. So being willing to learn a new thing and embrace change is critically important. Another thing I think that's needed to do my job is a sense of humor. You can knock it out of the park one day and really strike out the next. And so you just have to kind of take your professionalism seriously. But, I always say that I have pride in professionalism, but not in authorship. So many times I am accountable for putting words in the mouths of other people. And many times people they don't speak the way you write, or they have a different perspective. Having a thick skin and laughing some things off and extending grace to people, because I want people to extend grace to me. It's opened some doors that I really needed opened, and it has shut down drama. So just developing a thick skin and a good sense of humor is key as well.
I would say for my job, if you were in nursing and you're gonna plan to, work as a nurse, you study, you learn the information, and you can be super book smart, but you also have to have that caring heart and be able to have empathy for people. And that goes as well in my role as a manager of people. So it's very, very important that you understand yourself well enough to have insight into what your strengths are and what kind of things that you need to work on if you want to really communicate well with people, which in the nursing profession you have to, and which in all of our professions, honestly, you have to. And I think it starts with having insight into ourselves and, being able to give an honest assessment of what our strengths are and where we have some definite weaknesses. And one thing to this day is I show a lot of humility in my leadership. I don't know everything. I don't pretend to know everything. And I truly want anybody that I'm working with to feel that they can talk to me and be able to teach me something. And that comes from being okay with who I am and what I know. The world evolves, the information out there evolves, the science evolves. So everything I learned over the years of being a nurse, a lot of it's drastically changed. So you have to keep up with that. And then another thing that I would say to do my job is to be very detail oriented and always, and when I say that, I guess what I mean is always be observing. Notice that there's a crack in the wall that might need to get fixed, or that there's something else that you can work on, or see that perhaps you could learn more about while you're talking to somebody. They happen to say one thing that piques your interest, and so you go and you try to find more information out about it. Just kind of always taking that next step, and a little bit, I guess, maybe going above and beyond, pushing yourself to do that, because as somebody earlier said, it does get noticed. You become the person that they seek out because they know that is a strength you have. And so that's just something that I think you definitely have to do in a leadership role, and as a nurse as well. It's honing in on your assessment skills and being able to really look at the small things and work on what you can do to improve things.
I do have one thing I wanted to share that's kind of tied to social media, and we talk about all of that. And so during the tail end of the pandemic, I had the opportunity of really spending a lot of time with human resources, actually recruiting for positions within my entire department. And something that I am out of the loop with, because I'm in my 40s, is all that is on social media, because I did not have the internet when I was in undergraduate school. Thank goodness. Well, we had it, we just didn't have social media. But remembering that the internet is forever, and what you post, there are employers that will look at those things or search out your social media. And so making sure that your picture is professional if you're trying to find a job, and not Cartman from South Park or something that you think is cool at the time. And I don't think that anybody really even gave me that advice when I got out of college in my undergrad. I mean, my voicemail on my cell phone was ridiculous. And I finally changed it. But like people were calling me about jobs, and I don't even know why no one told me that that is not what I should have. But luckily I ended up, getting a job anyway. But I think that that's just a piece of general, when you're coming into the workforce or trying to get out in the workforce, that can be a barrier just because people, even though they shouldn't, they do make, judgments on some of that or be like, well, we'll give them a shot. But, the same with like a resume and all those things. Like, I've noticed some people put photos in their resume, and I think that it may be the template that they use, but that's not a usual thing or something that a lot of people who are hiring are used to. And so that, and if it is a photo, pick like a headshot of, or like something that's professional. So, but yeah, just those things just in general.
That's a great tip. We took headshots at the beginning of the summer. So they all
Awesome. See your social media profile, all that stuff, your headshot. That's perfect.
Well, I guess we only have a few more minutes. Any like last questions from the audience before we let our speakers go? Okay, well, thank you so much for talking with our group and sharing your career paths and just like some different tips and advice for them. I think this is all great, great advice that, if you could go back like however many years when you were in college to kind of tell yourself. So
and if you guys haven't been to Swope Health or you'd like to come and see all the cool things we do, I'm sure we'd love to have you just to see what's going on here. So anytime.
Awesome. But yeah, well, thank you so much. We're gonna take